What's going on, guys, and welcome to another episode of whatever the hell this is called. I hope you watch us on Facebook, YouTube, Pornhub, or Instagram. Probably not Instagram, maybe Pornhub, who knows? We're going to talk about how a lot of the time for beginners and intermediates with reference to hypertrophy, maybe even intermediates, it depends. It's really unlikely for you to have to target specific muscles and do specific exercises. Just relax and take a step back. It's all about doing exercises that you can do consistently for an extended period of time that you're good at, and this is in reference to hypertrophy and perhaps strength to a certain degree, and those two qualities are what we're going to really be referencing and discussing here. So most of the time, people are not strong enough, old enough in their training age, so not biologically but training age, or big enough, so muscular, to worry about training specific or very particular muscles. The big basic exercises combined with intelligent periodization will probably get you far enough in your first couple of years of lifting. Always get does this tricep extension compared with the overhead tricep extension, or target this certain component of the tricep more than the other. Who cares? Do you want to know when it matters? When you get on stage and you're a bodybuilder and the judges say to you, you almost had that, you would have placed a bit higher if your lateral delts were developed a little bit more. Well, guess what you go and do? You go and do specific exercises that target that particular muscle, but otherwise you don't do jack, and you just do big basic exercises with a couple of curls put in there and some rear delt flies and some lat pull downs and whatever. You just do big basic exercises, intelligently periodized across the course of meso and macro cycles to facilitate progress, and you consistently do it. You don't just do 2 weeks of incline press, then 2 weeks of decline, and then 2 weeks of flat. No, you're a beginner, stick to it long term and go from there. And you don't swap things out in order to just confuse muscles. That makes zero sense. Your muscles do not have brains in them. Your brain and spinal cord coordinate muscle action. That's about it. Muscles do not get confused. You get confused when you keep swapping around exercises and then you stuff up and you never really progress. Unless you're very good at tracking your stuff, which I can assure you if you're a beginner or intermediate, you're definitely not good enough in terms of tracking to keep swapping out exercises all the time. Do you understand that if your bloody muscles could think, you'd be some sentient friggin' being from outer space that could transcend time and space itself? You're a human being, relax. With reference to periodization, you'll use multiple rep ranges, and we talked about this in other videos. Multiple rep ranges, intensities, exercises, and different angles over the course of meso and macro cycles, so months to years. Probably not a year, you wouldn't do the same thing for a year. Well, you might, who knows? I would recommend doing the same thing for a couple of months, maybe 1 to 2.5 months. And you will, for hypertrophy and strength, usually it's block and undulate block and or. You could do both at the same time. It depends on how you go about it. You could do block or undulating and or undulating. I've said that a lot. Periodization for hypertrophy. I've talked about what these two are, so I'm not going to go ahead and talk about it even more. With reference to hypertrophy, if you want to promote long-term progress and really get that objective data, AMRAP tests for performance are probably better for the person looking to grow more so than just get stronger. AMRAP tests are probably better performance measures for you and more specific to your outcome than a 1 rep max test. Why? Well, the risk is a lot lower, and if you want to get bigger, you have to really think, and this goes for just about anything really, but if you don't really care about your strength, it'll go up anyway, and for someone to get bigger, they have to get stronger over the course of their long-term training journey. AMRAPs are a lot lower risk than a 1 rep max test. Another thing too, 1 rep max tests do serve a purpose, but they don't serve as much of a purpose in a hypertrophy program as a lot of people do make out. Hypertrophy is most of the time, everyone's going to crack it. Well, they might not, because 5 people watch this video. But most of the time, hypertrophy is augmented through a significant increase in volume over the course of someone's long-term training career, and 1 rep maxes won't really contribute to that increase in volume like performing multiple repetitions with more weight will. If you are going to chop and change exercises because you do not like monotony, and it just feels very mundane and boring. Well, guess what? Exercise is pretty boring. You know, you do the same thing multiple times until you get better at that one thing, and until you plateau, and then you just don't do it anymore, or you do something else that facilitates that exercise, and then you go ahead and you do other exercises that facilitate that, so you can get better at that, and you go back to that so it can get better. Cool? But if you do want to swap stuff out and change your program around, beginners need to do it a lot less than intermediate to advanced lifters. The more advanced you are, the shorter the time in general, you probably spend doing the same thing. To conclude, instead of worrying about what you're going to do in order to strengthen your posterior, lateral, this or that, you should probably just pick exercises, major exercises that you're good at, and stick to them long term. Let's talk about like a pull hypertrophy day that would probably work really well for someone that they could stick to, and you would hit every part of your back that you would need to hit in order to develop for an intermediate conventionally aesthetic looking back. You can start with a heavy horizontal pull for roughly 6 to 8 reps. Then you can move on to a lighter vertical pull for 8 to 10 reps. Then you can do a machine exercise in the same movement plane for a little bit more reps. So you can do one horizontal press, or one horizontal pull, and another vertical pull on machines, like a lat pull down and a seated row, for anywhere from 10 to 15 repetitions, and then you can finish with barbell curls and rear delt flies, and that should take you no more than an hour, even 45 minutes. So if I was going to do it, I'd do a heavy barbell row, a heavy chin up, or a heavy pull up. It doesn't really matter. That is mostly preference and grip, in my opinion, or preference for whatever grip you want to use, in my opinion. Then I would perform a lat pull down or seated row, and then I would do either a lat pull down or seated row. Again, depends on which one I did. And then I would finish with a straight barbell bicep curl and a rear delt fly. Hope you guys really enjoyed that video, and it gave you some really practical advice for what you want to do with your program design. Speak to you in the next video. TTFN, ta-ta for now.